Look at what's transpired in Minnesota and what they're describing as a type of pullback right now. What do you think is important here to separate the noise from the facts?
I think it's very hard to look at the events of the past week without, feeling the humanity. The loss of life, the physical abuse of female observers who were thrown to the ground. That Alex Preddy tried to intervene on behalf before he was executed within 30 seconds. I think as you look back, it's hard for me to get into the Star Wars analogies because I just think it's too soon. I think it's still palpably painful. But I think what we have seen, of course, is this is in many ways not surprising. The strategy from the get-go has been to have a very disruptive, very violent, sort of terroristic campaign to unsettle Americans, and then make what seem like changes. Going from Bovino to Homan. Like a modulation, but it's not a modulation. The policy is the same. Homan, of course, is somebody who is on tape taking a $50,000 cash bribe. Not somebody who's coming in to impose high moral standards. But we're taking a little bit of a relief thing here, and I think the danger is exhaling. I think people need to remain vigilant and remain cautious and understand. That the attack on the states from this invading force is going to persist, and it's only going to grow between now and the elections, which are the real target, as Bondi proved by trying to extort election data in exchange for partial withdrawal, like we saw yesterday with the remarkable search of the Georgia polling area.
But let me do this, Kai. We have that. I want to get to that, and you're drawing the line. You're reminding people that just because the government says something's about immigration doesn't mean that's the case. And we all have to be thoughtful, skeptical Americans. So I want to get to that, but I want to just actually finish another question for you on the immigration format, and then we'll go exactly where you did. There are these reports from The Atlantic that DHS, which is a massive, important part of the Homeland Security and other projects, basically isn't really functioning under Trump. The president, quote, has allowed a widening rift, months of acrimony, so things that they say are behind the scenes that we haven't always had in public, have left veteran officials at DHS, including those who basically support the core of the deportation goals, astonished at the dysfunction, blurred leadership roles, no clear chain of command. Does that ring true to you, or what view do you bring to that, having worked for a time inside the first Trump White House? Because there's everything we are seeing, including the killing of these people. And then there's everything we're not seeing, the negative space in the painting that can include failures that endanger Americans in all sorts of other ways.
Sure, DHS is very dysfunctional, and I think that's in large part because it's not really being run by by Kristi Noem. It's being run by Stephen Miller. She's acting at his whim to execute the sort of racist, violent chaos that is essential to tyranny.
FBI agents were seen searching a Georgia elections office, and officials say they left with many pallets of ballots. I want to be clear. This is for, as best we know, a past election, not the upcoming midterms. But they're trying to get physical ballots from when Trump lost 2020, tabulator tapes for the voting machines, ballot images, what they view as an initial count, something that could, of course, be debated depending on how you count, and the voter rolls from there. Tulsi Gabbard, who has been a very controversial Trump loyalist, was also spotted here outside that same facility last night.
This is Director of National Intelligence that is affirmatively moved to cut back the Foreign Malign Influence Center on elections. What the heck is she doing on the FBI serving a domestic warrant? If this doesn't concern the heck out of every American, it sure as hell should. This is a person who has got no business interfering in elections.
Ty, you brought up what could be abuse of DOJ powers to try to get voter rolls out of Minnesota. Then we have what is legally a more aggressive action of actually going to execute this search. Armed federal agents going into state voter facilities. Explain why you brought this up and why you say there's more to the agenda than just deportations.
Certainly. So I brought it up because, as Senator Warner pointed out, it's really shocking what happened at that search yesterday, and Tulsi Gabbard's presence it makes it even more so. Keep in mind, the Justice Department has sued 24 states or jurisdictions for voter data, almost all of them in blue states or blue precincts, and has been largely denied. Federal courts in California and Oregon have refused to do it. In Minnesota, there have been efforts that are underway and under consideration that will likely be denied. There's a pending case in Georgia, but they got tired of waiting, so they just went in and took it on their own. And keep in mind, these are from 2020. This is all about Trump trying to rewrite history consistent with his fantasy that he won an election that he lost by millions of votes. And that everybody knows this is the state where he demanded that the Secretary of State find him almost 12,000 votes in the aftermath of the election. So this is intensely corrupt. And Tulsi Gabbard's president, as Senator Warner said, should concern every American. I mean, she's either misled the committees to which she's supposed to report by failing to alert them of any foreign involvement in this, or she's involved the intelligence community in a domestic search warrant, which is a bright line illegal act. So this
that was
is
a big part of Watergate. That was
that's true.
Nixon saying, "Hey, CIA's got extra powers." Yeah, they do for espionage abroad. When he tried to get them in to muscle the FBI, that was one of the damning parts of the tapes.
And this is why I say, don't exhale on, Stephen Miller pretending that, he's got religion or that Tom Homans is somehow here to help. The reality is this is just a shift. I mean, within 24 hours of those statements, the FBI is illegally seizing these records. Now they had a warrant. It'll be fascinating to figure out what allegations they made to get that warrant.
Well, let's show you on that. We got a Georgia state senator actually discussing this and whether the warrant was even accurate. Take a look.
It's very possible, and we need to stress this, that the FBI lied in their warrant to try to get these ballots or use some small irregularity to justify a wholesale raid. All I can say about that is you have federal judges all throughout the country who have chastised the DOJ and federal agencies for lying to courts. So this could be the very same thing. Obviously, we don't know enough yet, but this is extremely alarming.
Democratic State Senator McLaurin there. What do we do if they are already getting away with it? If they have shown the Trump officials, DOJ is breaking laws, I mentioned, that's documented. They go to court and they mislead, evade. Some judge had to sign off on this. They claim they got the warrant through. And what does that tell us about having a public ready to defend voting if the judges won't?
Well, it tells us we need to stay in court and we need to be aggressive in court. Keep in mind, as the state senator indicated, shocking that the FBI might have lied. We have Judge Schlitz, who in Minnesota yesterday found that the government has violated 96 court orders in the month of January alone. More, he said, than many federal agencies have in their entire lifetime. You've got the Columbia study group that has found that over 40 court orders have been defied by the Justice Department. That they routinely lie and have been accused of lying now by many federal judges of both parties. So we're in desperate times, and the only transparency that we can get is what we get judges to give us, because we're not getting any from the administration.
Yeah, and in the run-up to the Jan 6th insurrection, you had long left the White House, but we know that Trump threw out many ideas, but some he backed off of. There were lawyers, his lawyers, who said they could go farther than many people think are honest. Some people were sanctioned, as we know later. But even Giuliani, we have the evidence and the testimony, said, well, we can't have the military go seize ballots. Does he have anyone left around him like that now? And if not, do you think it is a reasonable expectation, or more likely than not, that there will be an effort to misuse armed federal powers to interfere in the midterms or the general election in 28?
Well, I would argue we've already seen that in the assassinations of Good and Preddy. But I would also say, no, he doesn't have anybody around. I mean, so we've got Homans there allegedly in Minneapolis, to try to turn down the heat. But Bondi went there today and talked about enforcing the law, indicting people who allegedly were harming ICE agents or threatening ICE agents, and then parading their pictures in a way that's so contrary to Justice Department policy. The judge in the case expressed extreme alarm. It's a very lawless Justice Department. I think the Carol Leonnig book with her partner that came out about how the Justice Department has been shredded under these people is an important read for all Americans. We're in very difficult times, and the courts are our only protection because we have Republican senators and congressmen who are neutered by their own cowardice and graft.
Bondi lied famously and infamously about Epstein. Blanche lied last weekend about the slain American, making demonstrably false claims about him. Noam, of course, called him a terrorist. As you mentioned, they've softened that, and you've given us your lens that that's merely buying time, not a fundamental change. Do you think proper proceedings in the future could disbar Bondi and Blanche? Do you think there's any role for the legal community to say, we will return to regular order and it will be enforced?
So I think our expectations need to be tempered a little bit. I mean, I would be content if we just got rid of them. Accountability, notwithstanding, it would be delicious to have some accountability for the wreckage and the damage that's been done to our Constitution and the rule of law. I'm not sure we're going to get there, but if we can just get them out and find honorable people to serve in these positions as we've had historically, I'd be greatly relieved.